Welcome to the Better Sundays podcast. Focused, practical, and usable advice for church leaders looking to reach new young families and impact their community.
Hey, Mike Holmes here, reachkeep.com, sitting on the side of a lake up here in northern Montana, kind of, I don't know, maybe probably more than that, 50, 60 miles south of the Canadian border. Anyway, wanted to spend a little bit of time talking to you today. I've been kind of urged to spend a little bit more time talking and sharing things about what it takes to reach young families like right now. And for some of you pastors, that's what you're really looking for, things that you can put to use right now. And I want to give you kind of an interesting term here that you probably haven't heard, and then I'll explain what it means. But in order to reach young families, sometimes we need to do young family things. And I believe young families are very much, seeking different things in their lives. Young families obviously looking to the future, where older families are looking to the past. Young families are, what is going to become, and they're looking at careers, they're looking at experience, further in their education, further in their financial status, things along that line. They're not necessarily looking for spiritual solutions, but we know that they need spiritual solutions. So this is where we come up with this interesting term, and this is that the local church, or the pastor specifically, needs to be what is known in business world as a rainmaker. Okay, a rainmaker. You might not have heard that term before, but it's I don't even know where it really comes from. But in the concept is it's a person that makes things happen. In other words, many times in business there have been products that have been invented and nobody really knew that they needed that product. The early industrial revolution was that way. With automobiles, people like, what would you need a car for? You got a wagon, you got a horse, why would you need an automobile? That type of thing. And then finally people realized what they could start doing with them and how they could travel so far and come back. And, salesmen like, hey, I can get all the way to another county and do sales with an automobile where I couldn't with a horse, and take more wares, a lot of different things like that. People had a need, they just didn't know they had the need. And this is what young families are like. They need solutions in their life that bring stability, that bring the longevity that they want, that bring safety and security in their family. They want that. They just don't really know how to get it because they're searching for other things. And they're a typical example, is like if you were to go to, like a sporting goods store and see all the people going in and out of the sporting goods store, and then like right next to it's like a health food store, and it's like nobody's interested in buying, healthy stuff. They're all interested in buying all the cool things that will give them the experience, the, kayaks and bicycles and camping equipment and, that kind of stuff. So they're looking for something, but they're not necessarily going to find it. We have to provide it. Another example of rainmaking, really, in the early days of the computer. Computers, they thought when they invented them, the personal computers, they would be used primarily by scientists to do data crunching and, things of that. And there was a company, I believe it's called Univac, that was very big into the early computer stuff. And they provided stuff just to the scientific community. And they weren't really selling all that many of those things. But along came a company called International Business Machines, IBM, and they realized computers could be used for business purposes, for doing, accounting and spreadsheets and all the different things. Businesses didn't know that they needed it until they were sold it. Now, here is what pastors and local churches need to be. They need to be rainmakers. You need to get out and let people know that they need their problem solved. Parents don't wake up in the morning thinking about going to church. They don't wake up in the morning thinking about going to a character-based Sunday school. They don't wake up in the morning, thinking about, how they can apply the Bible to their life and their children's life and it'll make everything much better. They don't wake up that way. They wake up much more in the worldly sense. And I'm talking about just your average people out here in the world. Church people are different. We wake up and have the Bible reading and our devotions and all that. But a lot of people don't do that. They wake up just kind of like say, thinking about the experience, we need to present them with the solutions that the Bible has. Okay, every family in the world can benefit from like the book of Proverbs. It is so filled with wisdom, all sorts of, powerful truths that are in there. Most parents don't have any idea that that exists. So we need to promote that and provide that. Now, obviously, our local churches bring the gospel first, and we want people to be converted. But once you become converted and you start to grab hold of, Bible truths, man, families can tremendously benefit. They can become very stable. They can become very, unified, and their moms and dads and kids on the same page, where, right now they're all scattered all over the place. So churches need to provide that. We need to be the rain makers. We need to be there providing the solutions. Now, how does all that happen, okay? Well, we believe that churches need to preach what we would call solution-based messages. Now, these can be expository, topical, verse by verse, all sorts of things, but the bottom line is you're putting a solution into your message that somebody can use right there. So we call this Every Sunday Solve a Problem. We need to be solving problems for the people. And when they come, they may not even know they had that problem. They may not, a lot of parents don't understand that their children have an anger issue, okay? And the whole Bible has got all sorts of stuff on how to deal with anger and angry children, whatever. So you're providing a solution that people didn't even know they had. You are being the rainmaker. You're being the passive person. Parents, and using the buy-sell concept, I know this kind of repels some people, but pastors need to be, and churches need to be selling, okay? Because young families, are not buying. In other words, they're not waking up like thinking, oh, I need to go to a church, okay? They're not in the acquisition mode. You and I need to be in the selling mode. We need to be the ones that push it out there in a way. Thus, the good news, evangelism, go get them attitude, go the highways and hedges, compel them. All of those things kind of fall into this idea of a pastor being a rainmaker. Another illustration, way back, I think in the 1920s or 30s, a guy invented a thing called a come-along. Now, if you've ever worked on a ranch or a mechanic or any type of thing, you know the concept of a winch. It's just a hand winch where you can just take this little thing and hook it to a tree or whatever, and you can pull a car out of a ditch. Back then, people had to have horses and, mules and stuff to pull everything out. But once the come-alongs came around, man, everybody needed one because it had so many things that you could do with it. And so the early days of the come-along, there had to be rainmakers that would go to the hardware stores and say, hey, these people are going to buy these things. You need to show how these things work and demonstrate them, and people will buy these. And sure enough, now, almost every pickup truck in America and almost every farm, has one. I probably own 3 come-alongs myself, They're used for all sorts of different things. They're just fantastic tools. But in the beginning, nobody knew really what they were for. Take it back to the family situation. Young families need somebody to aggressively come to them in a kind and loving way and let them know that they can raise their children and move their children closer to the things of God, in ways that they just have no idea it exists. And that's why the local church exists. And that's why your Sunday school teachers need to, be out loving on their kids and visiting with them and talking to them regularly. We need to be making the rain. We need to be going out there. And I will tell you, the common denominator in the churches I work with, and I do a lot of coaching with pastors around the country, the common denominator, okay, one of the many, and obviously prayer and Bible and holy living and, godliness, there's so many different things that are also there. But folks, if you are willing to inject yourself into other people's lives and be aggressive with them and invite them to church and invite them to youth things and to have programs that have solutions tied to them, then those churches we see are being very, very successful in the sense of reaching their community and bringing in new people and fulfilling the Great Commission, seeing folks come to know the Lord and seeing them baptized. So the pastor as a rainmaker. Now that's a kind of strange term, and you may not, again, necessarily agree with the buy-sell kind of concept of it, and I don't talk too much about the business aspect of it, but it is, again, this idea that people are not necessarily buying. We need to be selling. People are not necessarily, saying, again, I need a character-based training for my child today. Okay. But when you come to them and say, we've got this character-based, day camp or activity that we're doing, we're going to be helping people, grow in their character and families be close together. Man, when you come with that, they're like, hey, that's what I need. So anyway, just want to spend some time with you here. If you need some help in reaching the young families of your community, we offer a free coaching consultation, I guess what you call it, just a time together. And I do these all the time. But if you go to reachkeep.com, our website, and at the top there's a green bar there, and you click on it, and it sends you to a kind of a little automatic place where you can just pick a date and a time, and it will schedule a phone call with us, okay, with you and me, basically going to talk about how your Sunday school teachers can reach more kids, what this character-based stuff is, what it's an acquisition event, how are you reaching young families without compromising, those type of things. We're here to help you accomplish that. And I do this stuff pretty much all day long, all week long. I love doing it, and I'm here for you. So please go to the website and click on the green bar, and we'll get something set up, and we'll get connected. So again, this is Mike at reachkeep.com, and appreciate you, and thank you for taking time, and God bless. We'll see you the next time here on the Better Sundays podcast at reachkeep.com.